Brigitte now. Brigitte, again, not with us. Jill's sitting in right here on Moody Radio 89.3.
You know, throughout South Florida, you walk into a church, and many times the congregation is not on the younger side, it's on the older side. Yet, God is doing so much in communities of all ages. And we're going to talk a little bit about what God is doing in gospel communities with Kish. He's a family church. Thank you so much for joining us on Moody Radio, South Florida.
Yeah, you're welcome. Good morning to both of you.
So what's interesting, you wrote the book on this, apparently.
Yeah.
He's got a book. We've got a link to that, Becoming the Household. But these communities, building these communities, you've been a part of this process for a while. Tell us how you got started in this whole idea of building these gospel communities and then letting them spread.
Yeah, absolutely. So I used to live in San Diego. I was a church planter out there, worked with a pastor named Cameron Bernard and his wife, and another guy named Danny Fisher and his wife. And Pastor Cameron introduced this idea of missional communities and gospel communities to me. And I watched people come in during the week to what was happening, not just on Sunday, but throughout the week, where people were experiencing the gospel in a very practical way. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And I watched that grow over the course of about 3 years. So when I moved down to South Florida and joined with Family Church, when Pastor Derek Simpson, he's the campus pastor and gives a lot of leadership to all of Family Church Network, he said, hey, we don't have a young adult ministry here. Go try and start one. Here's 6 other people that you can ask and see if they want to do this with you. And then came to my house, and the 7 of us sat down together, vision casted what it would look like, and pitched the idea of gospel communities to them, and it stuck.
Well, what is it that you think young people are hungry for, are looking for in a community?
Yeah, I think you answered it with that word. They're looking for community. So if you go anywhere, especially in South Florida, there's so many places and opportunities for connection, but they're looking to be known and fully loved, right? As the saying goes. And the places that they're going, they may find friendship, they may find connection, and maybe even some community, but they're really looking for depth. And what we want to provide for them is an environment where they can actually experience true gospel depth that only comes through Jesus and other Christians that are living this way together.
So what does that look like? Week to week, what does that look like?
Yeah, so our gospel communities, we like to say we do dinner and a question. So across all 5 of them, we have 5 different locations of these gospel communities: Lake Worth, West Palm, Village, Gardens, and North Stewart. And there's more coming. And at all 5 locations, we do dinner. So people come together. The host home always provides food for all the young adults. And then we do a question. And the questions are very focused on what people are going through in their life. So how do you define success? What's your biggest fear? How do you handle disappointment or failure? So the question leader will ask a question, and then every leader is trained in gospel fluency. So how do we bring everything back to the gospel? How do we speak the gospel into all areas of life? So at the end of the question time, the leader will say, thank you for your answers. Now, what does the gospel say to this? And then they will close by saying, this is the relatability of Jesus from Hebrews 4:15. For we do not have a high priest who's unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who in every respect has been tempted as we are, yet without sin. So Jesus can relate to everything that we're going through. So where do we see Jesus in these regular day-to-day life things? And how does the cross and the empty tomb impact everything in our lives? So that's the format across all of them, is getting everyone to be fluent in speaking the gospel.
All right, I'm providing a meal for these people, and now you're asking me to know the answer to all these questions. I'm out. I mean, that sounds scary to me. Explain that to me, how you find people that are willing to do this.
Yeah, that's the grace of God. I think it comes through vision casting, and it starts at the very top. So our lead pastor, Pastor Jimmy Scroggins, is a great visionary, great vision caster, and we do want to take the gospel to every person in every neighborhood all across South Florida. So from the very top, Family Church knows, hey, our mission, not just from Family Church, but from the Lord, is to take the gospel to everyone. And we always say, we've been the church in here, now let's go and be the church out there. And this way of gospel communities is an amazing way of being church out there and taking the gospel to people. And this is also a pretty innovative thing. And Pastor Jimmy also encourages everyone at Family Church, staff and residents, even volunteers, be innovators, try new things. And this is a new thing. It hadn't been done before. So when I introduced this idea of gospel communities and, hey, you're going to open up your home and you're going to pay and you're going to cook food, because of the vision cast of people need community, they need the gospel. They're not coming to church on Sunday. Some are, but what about all the ones that aren't? Why are they not? Postmodern, post-Christian society we live in. How do we take the gospel one step closer to the outsider? And then when we started doing that, people came in, they got saved, they brought friends. It went from 7 to 14 to where it is now at over 500 young adults connected in some way. And it's just, they saw the vision, they took it, they ran with it, and they're bought in.
What's the age you're talking young adults?
Yeah, post-college to age 39. We have a great college ministry at Family
Just
Church.
missed it, Jill. I was almost there. Missed that about
You're
16 years
39
ago.
and a half.
Yeah, okay.
Just missed it. Yeah, so we have a great college ministry. So it's anyone who's graduated college and then up to age 39. So most of them are working. They have jobs. They can put some money towards cooking and hosting and opening up their home.
Well, I think it's so very important, this model, because what we saw for so many years is everything happened at church. And you've got to come to church to get this post-COVID where no one could even come to church. And that a lot of communities and churches deciding that they're just going to meet once, maybe on a Sunday morning. It really doesn't provide enough for growth, because that's one of your missions, is not just salvation, but growth as well, right?
100%. Yeah. Discipleship is the most important thing that we do. So we have DNA groups within our gospel communities. And my desire, the desire of the leaders, is to see everyone become connected to one of these DNA groups. Minimum and maximum of 3 people. They are gender specific. 3 guys will meet on their own. 3 girls will meet on their own. And discipleship has to be the thing that drives everything we're doing and the end result of what we're doing. Disciples who make disciples. There was a guy in the Olympics in 2004. I believe his name was Matthew Emmons, and he was a sharpshooter. And all he had to do was hit bullseye, and he was going to win gold. And he aimed for his last shot. He fired, and he hit bullseye, but he ended up not getting any medal because when they looked at it, he hit the wrong target. And as I look at young adult ministry, we do events and we put on programs and outreach things and all of that, and all those are good. But discipleship is the target that we have to aim for. That is the most important thing. And all of our gospel communities and dinner and question and events, it's all driving towards how do we go deeper with young adults so that they're living on mission, taking the gospel to more people.
Young adults is a tricky thing because you're talking about building a community of young adults, but young adults are trying to build their own community because they get married and they have kids and they start a family. They're starting their own little community there. How do you get those little communities to be a part of a bigger, larger community?
Yeah, I think it goes back to vision and a proper vision cast of God has equipped you to live on mission, to take the gospel to people, and you don't have to do it alone. Because I think when we talk about evangelism, sharing the gospel, discipleship, it's this, okay, I'm by myself knocking on someone's door or talking to someone at the mall or praying for a waiter or waitress or something, and it's singular. And you can do that, but it doesn't have to just be that. You can do that together as a community. So if you vision cast well enough to the young adults at your church of like, hey, there's a community here. We're all on the same page, moving in the same direction to take the gospel to everyone, and you don't have to do it alone. People buy into that family idea of, okay, together we're doing this. Together we're going out and taking the gospel to everyone and living on mission, and they buy into it.
We're talking with Chris Kish of Family Church, and I think what I hear you saying is it's not just the pastor's responsibility. It really is the church's responsibility to have this fluency of understanding the gospel so well that we're able to live the gospel, right?
Absolutely. One of the greatest joys of my life is to sit back in one of these gospel communities and hear other people talk about the gospel, even before a leader says, okay, what does the gospel say to this? As conversations unfold over the last 3 years, regular attenders will just start saying, well, hey, this is how Jesus can relate to that. And this is what the gospel says to it. Long before the leader even says anything, I'm like, wow, this is amazing. They're taking ownership of the gospel in their own life, and they're loving what's happening, and now they're spreading it to other people. And they're seeing it's not just a leader thing. It's not those who have gone through training. It's not the pastors at the top or the ministry leaders. It's God has equipped all of his sons and daughters to live on mission. And my desire is that every young adult in this ministry would know that God loves them and has given them a purpose and a mission to take the gospel to everyone, and they're living it out.
I was going to ask, what do you do if the question gets in the way of the conversation? Because you talk about a dinner and then a question, but what if in that dinner time frame, questions or conversations are happening? Can the question be put off to the side? Is it a have to, or is it just a if we need it? I mean, does the question always have to be part of the day that you have?
Yeah, that's a great question. What we do is not a program. It's kind of ran like a program on any given night, but it's all about relationships. So I remember there was a guy who came to our young adult community, and as the question was happening, he started asking so many questions. He wasn't a Christian, very far from God, living in brokenness, but he came in, someone invited him at a Home Depot. He walks into the group, and then he just has a myriad of questions, and he asks them all, and the group, I wasn't there. I heard about this later. But the group stopped and they started answering his questions as a group together. And it went a little late. And the person who led that gospel community, because each gospel community has their own leader at this point, that leader said, all right, hey, it's getting a little late. If you want to keep talking to him, keep talking to him. If you need to leave, you can. But no one finished the question, because they're like, this is a guy who needs Jesus. He needs the truth. We're not concerned about getting to the end of this question. We're concerned about his heart, his salvation. It's not a program. It's about what's happening right now. And they've been trained in that, and they've bought into that idea, and that's how it's run.
And you've actually written a book called Becoming the Household. Can you talk a little bit about that book?
Yeah. So the Greek word for household is oikos. So I was actually in the Family Church residency program, and Dr. Mark Warnock leads that residency, and he was talking about an oikos map, which is where you can trace different people that you've led to Christ and that have come to the Lord and that they've discipled someone, and you can trace all of the things that have happened through evangelism and discipleship. And when I heard him say the word oikos, that was the same time we were starting young adult ministry. I'm like, wow, that is exactly what this ministry needs to be, is a household of young adults living on mission together. So becoming the household is this idea of how do you become a family among such a wide range of ages and lifestyles and single parents and married people and people right out of college and people about to enter their 40s. How do you get such a 20-year age span of young adults bought in on the same thing? Well, they want community. People understand the idea of family. Some young adults have great families. Some of them didn't have great families. But wherever they are in the spectrum of that, everyone now wants a good family. So how can we be a family together, living on a singular mission and purpose given from our Lord to take the gospel to people? So the book is How Did We Become That Household? And how do churches all over the world do this model of gospel communities so that everyone knows I can play a part in the mission of God, and it's not just on Sunday, and it's not just on Wednesday nights. It's all week because it's my identity.
It's interesting because Family Church is a wide web. I mean, they cover a lot of ground here, but that doesn't mean your church, who has a smaller scope, couldn't do something like this. You really just need one family stepping up and saying, I'm going to be that host family to start something like this.
Yeah. One of my favorite things about how we did this young adult ministry is we didn't announce it from the platform. We didn't have videos or bumper videos, or we still don't have a social media account as it stands today. Like, we did everything so small. You only got invited if someone invited you, and that's how it still is happening today. 500 young adults deep, we still don't post videos and all these things to draw people in, because we wanted to properly engage with, disciple, and connect the people that were going to come. And Family Church is so large, like you mentioned, that if on day one we said from all of our campuses, hey, we have a young adult ministry starting on Tuesday, go to it. Okay, we have 7 leaders and hundreds of young adults. What happened if they all came in at the same time? It would have been a big event. We wouldn't have been able to scale it slowly and crock pot grow this thing. It would have been a microwave quick. I don't know if it would exist today if we moved quick. So if a church is small, a lot of churches are smaller, and maybe they're lacking in resources or whatever. That's okay. Like, we didn't have any budget, no money, no announcements. It was just 7 people who said, we're going to open our home because we believe in what God is doing in South Florida, and we want to take the gospel to people. And God's blessed it, and God can bless any church that's willing to take that step and do the same thing.
Chris, thank you for coming in. Again, the book is called Becoming the Household. We have a link to that, but if somebody wants to talk to you, I mean, could they connect with you, and would you be willing to give your email or something like that for us?
Absolutely, yeah. One of my passions is to help churches know how to do this, because we need churches everywhere reaching this demographic of young adults. It can't just be family church. God's called everyone. So I would love to help people. My email is ckish@gofamilychurch.org.
All right.
Well, the subtitle to the book, How to Form Gospel Communities to Reach a Searching Generation, that's really what your goal is, isn't it?
100%. And they are searching, and we have the answer, so we can give it to them.
Amen.
Find out more information again at our website, ericandbrigitte.org.
Are you considering welcoming a child into your family through adoption? For more than 40 years, Adoption by Shepherd Care has been helping married couples adopt children who need a loving forever family. ABSC